Hi, I'm Ariel Argueso from Pipe Dream. A new study done with 681 BU students by biology PhD fellow and Match.com scientific advisor Justin Garcia found that 97% of men and women enjoyed cuddling if in a relationship, while only 61% of women and 52% of men were interested if not in a relationship.
Yeah, I think they do. I think they might deny it, but I think they love it.
I think it really varies from person to person, actually. Like, I think there's some of both for both genders, actually.
Cuddling, we think it's more intimate and special than going up and hooking up with someone.
I don't want to sound too weird, but it's nice being close to someone, you know, if they care and everything. And it's warm. Yeah, it's nice. I miss it. So girls out there, hit me up.
Like, I've heard that there are certain pheromones that are released when like your skin is just touching or cuddling the person that you like. So I do believe in that. I think it's really important.
Cuddling ain't bad. You know what I mean?
One of the real interesting things that we found in this data set of 681 BU students is we said, okay, right now, what would you prefer? Would you prefer a traditional romantic relationship or a hookup, or neither? And 63% of men said, right now, I'd prefer a traditional romantic relationship. And 83% of women said, right now, I'd prefer a romantic relationship. But what I think is even more interesting than the gender difference is that a vast majority of both men and women say, I would prefer a romantic relationship right now. Even though I'm on a college campus, even though hookups are the script, the sexual script, even though this is the public discourse, I would like a romantic relationship right now. So the big question becomes, how do young adults find them? How do you start relationships when the popular script is these kind of uncommitted encounters, but we're really looking for intimacy and something more with more depth to it? How do we find those? And that becomes a big question, and sometimes becomes a problem. Yeah, so what we find is that things like cuddling and kissing and even sometimes things like massage can cause increases in a hormone called oxytocin. And oxytocin it does a lot of things. It's actually largely important for female mammals. It's important for milk letdown during lactation. It's important for pregnancy, for birth. It's one of the hormones that's important for uterine contractions during birth in humans. But it's also involved in attachment and bonding. And we see that things like cuddling is associated with increases in oxytocin, particularly during orgasm, and particularly for women. You can get real floods of oxytocin following those behaviors. So we see that there are hormonal correlates to a lot of these behaviors, and why is it that we might engage in these behaviors that would trigger those systems in one context, relationships high, and then in another context not as high. Our research shows that that's not the case, and we've shown that in a number of studies. The interesting thing about hookups is a study that we did here a few years ago. Dr. Chris Reiber and I in the anthropology department looked at what motivates people for hookups, and we found that a little over 50% of men and women, when we asked them, what motivates you, why do you want to engage in hookups, and we say, tell us all the reasons why, 50% of men and women said, I want to start a traditional romantic relationship. So we did a study on a gene called DRD4. It's a dopamine D4 receptor polymorphism. It turns out all of us have the gene, but we vary in our length of it. So what it is that folks with a particular type of gene, they crave dopamine more. It's actually, the dopamine doesn't get into the receptors as well. So they need more intense stimuli to get the dopamine rush. So they need to do things more to get that same response in the pleasure circuit in the brain. They need to flood the synapse with dopamine. So those folks, we see that they're more likely to have one-night stands, more likely to have committed infidelity. When they commit infidelity, they do it more often. So it's one of the behavioral expressions for folks with this particular genotype. So dinner and a movie can be a lot of fun, and it can be a great date. But what's really interesting is that if you do something new and different, it triggers different responses in the brain, and it can give us a rush of excitement. So it's helpful to think outside the box this Valentine's. Do something that's fun, maybe a little bit different. There are some known aphrodisiacs like chocolates and strawberries and oysters, so that might help. But really try to think of something that's unique, that makes it special.